This is Michael Carano with RBP Chemical Technology and the chairman of the IPC's Thought Leadership Program. The Thought Leadership Program was created by IPC to bring together an august group of industry experts that can provide insights and trend analysis and provide ideas for our industry as we move forward in this very complex and challenging environment. Some of the topics that you're going to hear from our thought leaders are going to be on areas of economics, technology and innovation, competition, environmental health and safety, and several other topics, including workforce development and education. We are very pleased to have one of these experts with us today, Dr. Carol Handwerker from the University of Purdue. Carol is the professor in material science and engineering, and she has a long career in our industry, including education and research and development. She has multiple degrees, including art history from Wellesley College, and then bachelor's in science and master's degree and Ph.D. doctor's degree from MIT. Carol has a number of interests in her career. In addition to education and teaching, she develops and applies thermodynamics and kinetics. She's looked at everything from nanoparticles, and I'm not going to go into all of this. I'm going to have her tell you a little bit about herself. So with me today, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Carol Handwerker. Welcome, Carol.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here.
And thank you for being part of our program. So let's go back a little bit. You've been active in our industry, not just in education, but in research and development. I know lead-free is one of your passions. Tell us a little bit about why these various areas of electronics you're very passionate about, and what it really means to our industry going forward.
So first of all, I want to add one more thing to my background, and that is that I was a metallurgist and then a division chief of the metallurgy division at NIST for 21 years.
Right.
So the reason why I brought that up is because I'm really passionate about public service, making a difference. So that's why I went to NIST originally. That's why I went to Purdue University, which is a land grant college, the premier engineering college university in the state of Indiana, and in the top 6 engineering universities in the US. So I really am passionate about finding ways that not just my technologies, but other people's technologies can be put into practice. And so I was introduced to microelectronics very early on when I was a postdoc. I did work for IBM in low alpha emitting substrates. And so then I became very connected with people in the industry. Mike Wolverton from TI then, and people gave their time and energy in teaching me about electronics, and I've been fascinated with it ever since. As you know, it's a driver for economics, economic benefits in the United States, and so it's taking me now to where I am, where we are today. What I'm passionate about is developing the supply chain for electronics within the United States, to recapturing some of those, some of the industries that we have not been able to keep here in the US, particularly advanced packaging. What I think is the key to that is something called sustainability. So it's economics, it's having economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and societal sustainability. And so with the new CHIPS Act funding that's becoming available for advanced packaging, with all this really exciting discussion and planning that's going on across the nation, this is an opportunity for us to apply those concepts, but not just from a technology point of view, but really from an economic point of view, from a societal point of view, and to be able to develop these connections. I think that's one of the things that's been missing, that some of us on how will I say, just the academic side, even the industry side, we're so tied up in the technologies and we're in love with those. We want to see them moving forward. But then the question is, how do we work together to develop a supply chain? So that's really what I'm fired up about.
This is great news, Carol, and I think there's a lot been written about the CHIPS Acts, and over the years, I got involved in this industry, 1979, 1980, my passion, of course, was in technology and processes and in a variety of industries, but the circuit board industry was a kind of a growing industry at the time with over 1,800 fabricators in North America and controlling probably, depending on who you talk to, for the most of the decade of the 80s and the 90s, North America was number one or two in the world in terms of not just technology, but circuit boards and semiconductors, but also in the sheer volume of that work. And now, 10 or $11 billion of circuit board value has disappeared and has now been left with maybe 2.5 to 3 billion in North America. And I think it's a sad situation. And I know there's more to it than just circuit boards, but circuit boards, as we've always talked about, are the kind of the interconnect substrate that allows this rest of this industry to work together. So with that, and you're talking about the Chips for America Act, and while that's noble, how do you, in your work, particularly on lead free and with NIST, how do you see this sustainable, this printed circuit board industry becoming a sustainable, here in North America? Besides the CHIPS Act and other interventions, what do you think? What do you think would really be of value to the listeners and a call to action from our lawmakers to make this work?
So there are two different things. One is that, I work a lot with the Department of Defense, and the Department of Defense is only about 1% of electronics. Uh, but it's a very important part of electronics, and they have been trying to maintain a domestic supply base. I think if the legislators actually see that it's not just defense, but it's economic security and national security at a larger scale. So if we think about it in terms of transportation, infrastructure, water, power, other control systems, plus defense, then so all of a sudden you're talking about 30% of the electronics, including automotive and trucking. And so I think if we can, it's not just developing a message, it's really developing a new way of looking at what our opportunities and vulnerabilities are, then I think that might be able to resonate with lawmakers. But even more important, it's got to resonate with us. It's not just a story. It can't be just a story. It's got to be real. Because if it is not real, all it is a nice story in a magazine or a press release or something. So whatever we do to move this forward is going to be hard. So we have to be committed to working together to get over the tough spots. And the question is, do we have that kind of long-term commitment? So those are some of the things that I think we have to explain, that it's not 1 year money.
Mhm.
All right, but we have to really think about the long-term plan, and not just how, if everything goes well, how it's going to work. We have to see, we have to be on the lookout for where things can go horribly wrong, or even a little wrong, such that in the end, it doesn't work out. So I think, the commitment has to be there from all of us.
Okay, and it sounds like it's a mixture of the policymakers, and our government, as well as the major OEMs, but also the small and medium-sized fabricators and manufacturers in the entire, like you said, the entire supply chain, because it's a whole infrastructure. It's an entire ecosystem that is not really operating maybe on all three cylinders. So you mentioned sustainability, economics, and societal, but as well as environmental. Thinking about these things that you just said, what is the long-term consequences if we as an industry or as a government or a society do nothing? In other words, you know, keep doing the same things that we're doing today?
So I want to take one more step back about one of the one of the one of the I think poorly recognized reasons why the industry moved to China, and that is it has a huge market. So when we think of economic benefit, yes, we want to have economic benefit, but we move there because Apple phones sell in China,
Mhm.
right? So I think we have to look at this more in the cold, hard light of day to see what's driving the different changes, and then also make a commitment to be the leaders in the next generation, because it's going to take something bold. And if we don't do that, well, we know where it's going to go. I mean, TSMC is a juggernaut. It's a friendly juggernaut, but it's a juggernaut. And Samsung as well. They are the two largest chip manufacturers in the world. And yes, TSMC and Samsung are going to create some facilities here in the fabs in the U.S. Um, but they do multiple things. They're going to faster, smaller, lower nodes. Like TSMC uh, is looking at 3 nanometers as a node, and they're willing to do the investment to get there. They have the know-how to get there, whereas Intel, it's really painful to say, Intel can't get its 7 nanometer fabs yields up enough so that it can ship product. All right, so we have to look at what we think is keeping us from even doing 7 nanometer at Intel. There are other strategies. IBM and I think it's IBM and MIT have a different strategy, and they've demonstrated the 2 nanometer equivalent. So we've got to be smarter about this. We have to come up with new technologies, and we have to, I think, also be able to get the cost of the fabs down. Because Moore's law says that every 2 years the number of transistors per unit area doubles. Well, I don't know what the law is, but according to that, as the number of transistors per unit area goes up, the cost per transistor, I think, is flat, which means the fab costs go up.
Mm.
Right. So the newest fabs, the gigafab that Intel is talking about is $20 billion for one facility, plus government subsidies. TSMC's in Arizona is 12 billion plus government subsidies. So it's so we need investment, we need a dedication, and we also need people who are thinking about how we can commercialize these things from the very beginning. So it's great to have these wonderful new ideas, but if you can't manufacture them and with
Right.
the yields, then we're gone for.
Yeah, whether you're making widgets, circuit boards, or number two pencils, it's really all about yields at the end of the day, no matter how complex the device is. Uh, so that brings me back to one more question for you, Dr. Handwerker, is you talk about people too, and besides the ones who have the control of the money, what about the workforce? Is our workforce here in North America, United States, on the engineering side, uh, labor side, well educated enough at this point to take in a business or a job at a TSMC?
So the PhD level, no question, we're there.
Okay.
Right. For the other levels, there's been a continuous decrease in the STEM workforce and the people going into those things. There's another issue as well, is that the jobs are going to have to pay enough to make it worthwhile for people to want to stay in school longer and to study more. And so you and I have had the discussions before about competition for jobs for high school graduates. So if we want to have the best high school graduates, then to take these jobs, then we have to be able to pay them enough. And there still is this big training gap, education and training gap. I'd say, K through associate's degree, that we really need to fill. One of the important parts of the CHIPS Act is that in the R&D portion, I've heard that they're going to spend between 30 and 50% of that on workforce development.
Okay. So that sounds like a great opportunity for even an organization like IPC with certification training to provide some of that hands-on opportunities, as well as for the technical schools. I'm thinking, and I drive past many technical colleges here in Minneapolis on a regular basis, Hennepin Tech, what have you. And there's programs in electronics, but maybe not to the level of circuit board fabrication, semiconductor, and assembly. And I think there's more circuit board assembly going on in North America than there is bare board fabrication. So that tells you something. Some of that supply chain is here, but it certainly needs to pay more than $10 an hour, I think, to get someone to leave McDonald's. When you go down the street, Amazon's advertising $25 an hour. And I've been seeing signing, advertisements for bus drivers for signing bonuses up to $5,000 signing bonus to drive a bus for school kids. And that's and then you want someone to go into a chemical environment that might be a little bit under higher pressure and say, well, the pay is only $12 an hour. That's going to be difficult to convince someone to do that, I think.
Yeah, so that's why I think we're going to actually even have to go into K-12, elementary, middle school, high school. We're going to have to to start making these jobs more appealing. I was going to say sexy, but no, it's not really sexy. It's just that these are driving the economy. People can be part of important things, and I think people will respond, but they have to be shown them early on.
And it's like you said, the electronics is a great enabler. Not only does it employ millions of people, but it also generates a lot of money, profit, and also allied businesses, right? It's kind of like you're building an airplane and you're Boeing, but someone has to upholster the seats. So that sets up somebody else in business. Someone has to clean the airplanes. And obviously there's a trickle down, and electronics I see being like that very much. I have one final question for you, and this is a kind of a 15-second elevator pitch. If you were in an elevator with a couple of policymakers that in Washington, D.C., what would you like to tell these policymakers, ones that control the purse strings, about the importance of what you've talked about today? You've got like a whole 15 seconds to kind of sum it up.
So what you have done by creating the CHIPS Act and providing this funding is really a decadal opportunity for us to make a difference. And so one of the things I want you to do is to hold us all accountable for this, because we can do great research, we can build facilities, but we are going to have to all work together, including you all as policymakers, to make sure that we are able to develop small and medium-sized companies, large companies, to make these connections. And if they see that you're serious about this, and if we are serious about this, then I think we can make a difference, but we need your support.
That sounds great. Let's see how we can make this happen. And I hope the IPC Thought Leadership Program is one step in the way of making this happen.
Great.
Thank you. With Carol Handwerker, this is Michael Carano with the IPC Thought Leadership Program.
Great, thanks.